Hey everyone, welcome to the Mental Playbook with Christine Dalgity. We're here to chat about all things mental health, share some awesome stories, educate, and advocate to break stigmas and gain power through knowledge for all ages and walks of life, and give you the tools you need to boost your mental game. So grab a coffee, get comfy, tune in, get inspired, and let's dive into some fascinating conversations. Remember, your mind is super powerful, and with the right tools and knowledge, you can master your mental playbook. And while you're doing that, take care of you. Hey everyone, Christine here, and welcome to the Mental Playbook with Christine Dalgity. Settle in and let's chat about something that affects all of us, our time. Specifically, today's episode is called Own Your Time, How to Prioritize What Matters to Us. Let's be real for a second. If you're listening to this, you probably have a to-do list that is way longer than you'd like. And maybe it's written on a napkin or a post-it. Maybe it's lurking in some notes app, or maybe it's just in your head and it pops up right when you're trying to fall asleep. We're all busy, but are we busy doing the right things? Or are we just busy being busy? So today we're diving into the art and the science of prioritizing what matters to us, prioritizing our time. And we'll talk about why it's so tough, what gets in the way, and of course practical strategies you can start using today even to feel a little bit more in charge of your minutes and then hopefully your life. So how to own your time and prioritize what actually matters. Not what your inbox screams is urgent, not what your calendar tells you is next, but what you, deep down, really care about. What I want you to know though is this isn't about productivity hacks, how you can get more in, right? It's about reclaiming what your time is a reflection of what you truly value. Let's dive in. And, I think that we all think about this perfect schedule that we have. And I'm going to start with a confession. I've fallen often for the illusion of the perfect schedule, right? The one where everything gets checked off, you magically build in self-care, and somehow you're in bed by 9. Life is rarely that neat. Why? Because time management isn't just about squeezing more tasks into a day. It's about understanding what actually deserves your attention. So here's a story too. I once had a client who was honestly one of the most organized people I have ever met. Calendars were all color-coded. There were reminders galore. But this client felt overwhelmed and unsatisfied. And they couldn't understand why. Because they were saying, I have everything organized, why do I feel so overwhelmed? Because they were organized, but their schedule was jam-packed with everyone else's priorities, right? So work demands and meetings, family obligations, even their volunteering time. And there wasn't much room for anything that brought them joy or meaning in this well-organized calendar. And I see this pattern a lot. And if you're nodding your head right now, you're definitely not alone. I see the pattern a lot and I live the pattern a lot too. So I think that, it's important to understand why it's so hard to prioritize. It's like this elephant in the room, right? We all want to, I hear all the time, got to get organized, got to stay organized, got to color code things. I have things in my Google Calendar color coded, right? Work, personal, all my different sports teams have different colors, and when they're on TV and stuff like that, I have that too. But it's the question is, why is it so hard to prioritize what matters to us in those calendars? It's sometimes, it's not about what's in the calendar or what's on the calendar. It's about what's in your heart, what you value. And I think that time can be this slippery slope too. It feels slippery, right? It kind of slips away from us. And I've said before, when my son said, Mom, I feel like I wake up in the morning and then all of a sudden it's 10 o'clock. And I said, that's how I feel often. It's because those color-coded calendars are so jam-packed, but not always that meaningful. So it's about wondering, why do we say yes when we mean no? Why do we scroll when we want to sleep? And I have a few things here, a few of the reasons, right? The why it's hard to prioritize and what roadblocks that we seem to find. And the first one is external expectations. We live in a world that loves productivity, hustle, and saying yes. And sometimes prioritizing means pushing back against what other people expect of us. And that's not easy to do, especially if you're a people pleaser. There's something called internalized capitalism. That means that we equate worth with output. So, think about that for a second. How many people do you know equate their worth with what they do, their output? We've talked so many times about, especially, Gen Xers and stuff like that, who think it's a badge of honor to do all of these things. I'm stressed out, not sleeping, having heart palpitations, but I just got all that done, right? That's like a badge of honor. That's internalized capitalism. Sometimes, with all the external stuff, life throws us curveballs, these unexpected curveballs. Life happens, illnesses, emergencies, a surprise project that pops up at work that derails our plans. So when that happens, we need to be gentle with ourselves, right? Flexibility is not failure. It's actually a survival skill. It's a survival tool to be flexible. The next thing that gets in the way of prioritizing, what matters to us in our schedules is the G word, guilt. This internal guilt. Even when we know what we want, guilt can sneak in, especially if it has to do with self-care, right? Doing something that we want to do. Or rest. If we want to rest. My friend just said to me the other day, if she wakes up early, she feels she has to get up because she feels guilty for lying in bed, that she's wasting the day. So that rest, even though that's what she wants, guilt sneaks in. Or maybe there's a personal project that you want to complete, but it competes with work or family demands. The guilt monster, right? When you make space for what matters, essentially guilt might show up. Guilt around saying no. Guilt around disappointing other people. Remember one thing too, though, is that when we take care of ourselves, it actually helps us show up for others as well. So I often tell clients, and I've said here before, that the definition of guilt implies an intent to harm. You saying no when you're trying to prioritize what matters to you is not intending to harm someone. It's prioritizing your time and what matters to you. Another roadblock is FOMO, the fear of missing out. Have you ever said no to something and then that little voice is like, oh, but what if it's amazing and I'm missing it, right? Or what if I'm with them next time and they're all talking about it and I didn't get to enjoy it, or I don't know what they're talking about, or I feel left out, or fill in the blank. That FOMO often is a roadblock to prioritizing our own time, because then it's like, well, I'm just going to do it anyway, even though I don't really want to. I think that I need to add in there too that there can be a difference in that sometimes when we feel overwhelmed, that might be something that aligns with our values and that we want to do, but so many of the work demand, like it could be a self-care thing, but all the work demands, responsibilities kind of cloud that. So it is about, reflecting on what it is too, because when we feel overwhelmed and we just automatically say no, reflecting on that too, besides the FOMO, it's like, is that something fun that I would actually enjoy? Right? So think about that as well. Perfectionism is something else. If you wait for the perfect plan or the perfect time to do something, you're never going to do it. You're never going to do it. You'll be waiting forever because I've said before, perfectionism doesn't really exist, right? And we say things like, I'm going to do those family pictures when I lose weight, when I look a certain way, when the leaves are a certain color, when, we keep pushing it off, and then, not to be like doom and gloom, but life is unexpected. What if something happens and we don't get those pictures with the people that we love? We're not prioritizing. We're trying to wait for something perfect, and it might never happen. Start somewhere, anywhere. Progress over perfection. That's what matters. And sometimes we have a lack of clarity. We're so caught up in the whirlwind of all the stuff we have to do, we really don't know what matters. We don't know what matters most to us, at least not in detail. So I'm going to give you some tips and tricks to help with that as well. I want you to use self-compassion as a time tool. You're allowed to rest. You're allowed to want joy. And I say all the time, downtime is not wasted time. It's actually necessary. And with, looking for clarity and stuff, I want to clarify. And this was just said to me actually twice last week with clients. Downtime doesn't necessarily mean couch potato. Right? When I talk about downtime and prioritizing your time with my clients, they often say, Christine, I'm not someone to just lie around. I can't sit still. That's not necessarily what downtime means. It can mean that, one of my clients said they were going to a cottage. And I said, well, that's downtime. And they said, well, I have to, we're packing up the cottage. We're bringing stuff in. I'm like, okay, but can you go on the boat while you're there? Can you sit by a fire while you're there? That can be downtime, right? Going for a hike is downtime. Downtime means any time that's just carved out for yourself that isn't about work demands and responsibilities and obligations. So yes, cottage, you're working to pack stuff up, but you incorporate downtime into that. That is self-care, and that's prioritizing your time. All of these things are totally normal. It doesn't mean, that you're failing at life if you're not prioritizing. Not many people master the art of it because we're not reflective of it. We're not aware of it. So that's why I'm doing the podcast today too, to help you become more aware of it. Our brains are wired to keep us connected and safe. And sometimes that means saying yes, even when we're stretched too thin. Because if we are a people pleaser, or if we are someone who feels guilty if we say no, your brain's actually protecting you by saying yes. It's not protecting you from the burnout that you might get, but it's protecting you from that anxiety that you might have about, saying no to people or disappointing people. When we don't prioritize, there is a cost to it. So let's get honest for a moment. What does it look like when we don't prioritize our own time, or we don't own our time? Some of these you might recognize. The first one is chronic stress and burnout. And I did a podcast on workplace wellness, and I did a podcast on the busy mind and how you can work with that. And in both of those, I talk about how not prioritizing time at work, not managing or setting boundaries, work-life balance, which I'm going to talk about in a second because people don't always understand what balance actually means in this situation. But all of that stuff leads to chronic stress and burnout. if you're not managing or owning your time, prioritizing what really matters within your schedule. So you may start or stop doing stuff that normally you would enjoy doing. Everything might seem like a chore, right? It's not, oh, I have to. It's like brushing your teeth feels like something else I have to do. And this plays into all other parts of your life. And I mean, a lot of what I'm talking about with chronic stress and burnout sounds like depression. And, we lose interest in things that we used to love to do. We don't have energy to do things like self-care, meaning like activities of daily living, self-care, eating, hygiene. We call in sick to work because, getting up in the morning to go to work seems like too much. We snap at our people we love. We get very irritable and angry. So all of that because we're not prioritizing our time. Feeling like life is happening to you and not with you. Human beings need control. We need to have a sense of control. And if you're following your schedule and it's all about other people and what you need to do for other people and work, and you see this list, right? Which is why I also say break down the list during the week, but you see all these things you have to do and none of them bring you joy. It feels like you have no control because you're doing it for everyone else. And so it feels like life is just happening to you. You can also start having resentment. So resentment for other people who may be able to prioritize their time, or that you see on social media having fun and doing things, traveling, whatever it may be. You start to resent people that say, oh yeah, I didn't get out of bed till 9 o'clock today, right? Or yeah, I just lazed around and watched TV or scrolled and had coffee in bed, and you're like, oh, must be nice. Well, you can do it too, right? But you get that resentment, or you may start resenting your past self, whether past was like 2 weeks ago or whatever, for signing up for all of these things. You might resent that, right? Why did I do that? And you start to get angry with yourself for doing that. And the other cost is you start missing out on things that truly matter to you. You are so caught up in all the stuff you have to do. You're not owning your time. You're not putting in your time. And that could be missing time with loved ones. Maybe creative projects or just space to breathe. That was always one for me that when things get really, really busy, I often reflect and I say to people, it feels like I just need time to breathe, right? I just need space to breathe. That seems to be something that I use all the time. Obviously, I'm breathing, but like just to take that big exhale. That was something I always said. But I have people that say, I just want to have time to just do my thing, right? Do my crafts, do work on the yard. Which to some people, gardening, yard work and stuff is a prioritized time. That's something that brings them, that's their self-care. Not for me, because I hate gardening. I mean, there is satisfaction sometimes when you pull those weeds, when you get the whole root. There's some satisfaction there, but yeah, no. But that is prioritizing their time. I've been there, right? As I've said, I've been there, and so have many of my clients. I think that, besides the mental health issues like anxiety, depression, and the relationship stuff that I hear in session, time management and prioritizing our time to what matters to us. And like I said at the beginning, not productivity, how to prioritize to get more productivity in. I mean, prioritizing all these things I'm talking about is probably one of the most common things that I hear in my office. Or it might not be what they bring to the table, but it's what I bring to the table with them, right? Once I hear them and what they're talking about, sometimes I say to them, so where do you fit in? Or I'll say, where do you put in time for you? These kind of questions. And I'll get, no. Or sometimes I'll get a look. Okay, Christine. It's funny because clients, they hate when I when I say those kinds of things, right? Because then it's accountability. But also when I say some things, sometimes too, it's like, how come when you say it, it sounds so easy? It's not. It's just I have a helicopter view. I mean, I'm really good at saying all this to my clients and to my audience and stuff, but I'm also very honest, and I've said in other podcasts that I need to work at prioritizing my time sometimes too. And as a business owner, I can get caught up in all of the things I have to do. And I know that my to-do list is always on the notes app on my phone, and I have each day, I break things down, but I have to put in there things like, I'll put in Blue Jays game, right? Or something, because I have to see some joy stuff in there too. But I have been guilty of looking at my list and it's all stuff I have to do around the house or all stuff I have to do for work, reports and podcasts and videos and payroll and books and like all of this stuff. And then and I know that feeling I get when that's what I see. So I put in the different things now that I want to do. So even though I'm guilty of doing it and I've been there too, I am using the strategies that I'm telling all of you to use. And the good news is you can start making a change too. Like you can start today. But before we start prioritizing, we need to know what's worth prioritizing to you. So I have a few tasks here, and I want you to either pause the podcast right now and go grab a pen and paper, or do this with me and then pause it so that you can do your reflection. Because these things are really important. You need to know what is worth prioritizing before you prioritize. Just because I'm saying some of these things, family time or whatever, maybe they're not that important to you. So the first thing we're going to do is a guided reflection. So I want you to sit comfortably. You can close your eyes if you want to picture this, or you can write it down and do it later. If you had one free day a week, one free day, what would you do? That's one question, right? The next thing I want you to reflect on is, what do you want to be remembered for? Okay. The next task that I want you to think about is, your values versus your obligations. I want you to ask yourself and reflect on this question. Are you living by your values or someone else's expectations? And the third task, task I want you to try. This one's like, whoop. I was trying to think of some things to do and I was like, oh, this is going to hit. It's a journal prompt. I want you to list 5 things that make you feel alive. Now, go look at your calendar. Do they show up on your calendar? Bet you they don't. And if they don't, I want you to add them into your calendar somewhere. Those are some little activities that I want you to do. But I also have my own playbook for prioritizing. And this is what I share with my clients, and I do try myself when it comes to owning your time. So there's six strategies that I want you to try. And the first one is get clear on your values. So, grab a sheet of paper or just use your notes app like I do and ask yourself, what are my non-negotiables? What brings me meaning or joy? And I want you to write them out. So they might be things like family, learning, creativity, health, adventure, travel, cooking, like anything that brings you meaning and joy. Non-negotiables. I don't want you to overthink it. If you're stuck, look back at a time where you felt really alive and the happiest that you felt. What were you doing? Who was with you? That is going to let you know what your non-negotiables are. That is going to remind you of what brings you meaning and joy. The second thing I want you to do is audit your time for 1 week. Yep, a full week. I want you to track how you're spending your time. I want you to be honest, no judgment. It's not about judging yourself or shaming yourself. I just want you to gather the data. And then at the end of the week, I want you to compare your log to your values. How much of your time lines up with what matters to you most? And it's like I said, it's not about guilt. It's just about awareness. Information, knowledge is power. And if we can understand it, we can take more charge of our lives and line up our values. And then number 3 is the big 3. Each morning, I want you to ask yourself, if I could only do 3 things today, what would move that needle towards my values? Make those some of your non-negotiables. Everything else is just gravy. And number 4 is learn to say no gracefully. So this one's tough. I know how hard it is to say no, especially if you have social anxiety or you were raised by narcissistic parents, you're a people pleaser. But for anyone, it's tough to say no. But it is a superpower if you can master it or manage it. You can practice phrases like, I'd love to, but I just can't commit to that right now. Or, thank you for thinking about me, but I'm just going to pass this time. It gets easier the more we practice it. I talk about your resistance, your giving in muscle and your resistance muscle. And your giving in muscle is when we give in to those thoughts, the people-pleasing thoughts or the shame thoughts, whatever. I can't say no to people. The more we give in and we say yes when we want to say no, the more it just kind of comes out. It becomes easier. We build that giving in muscle. And then our resistance muscle, the more we resist that urge to just say yes when we want to say no. So the more we say no, and gracefully, like I said, you don't have to just say no. The more we build the resistance muscle and it becomes easier to do. One thing I also want to add to that is you don't owe an explanation. So many times I hear, thanks for thinking about me. I just can't commit right now because I have da-da-da-da. Or, but next time I will for sure. No, you don't have to owe that. You don't have to say that. You don't owe that explanation. Thank you for thinking of me. I can't commit right now. Or today is not a good time. Or this isn't a good time. Full stop. That's all you have to say. The 5th one is build in buffer time. This is huge too, because, and I'm bad at this. I'll think about, like, if I have to get ready for something, and I'll be like, okay, well, I'll be able to get that done in this time. And then, so when I'm doing my to-do list for that day, like if I'm hosting something, I'll say, okay, by this time I'll have this done, and by this time I'll have this done. Nope. Doesn't usually work that way. And then I'm looking at the clock going, holy cow, I'm not going to get it done, right? So that adds more stress. I think that most people in general underestimate how long things take. So if we leave space between commitments, then we have that breathing room and your future self will thank you. So if you're, doing your calendar, and even though this isn't about prioritizing your time, it's managing your time. And if we have one thing back to back, one thing after another back to back, then we're not owning our time. We're not managing our time. So that's a strategy to help out as well. And the last one, and this is what I was talking about up top too, or before, was schedule joy. Put fun, rest, and connection into your calendar. So what I was saying was now I put in those things so that I not only, so I ensure that I do it, but also so that I can see it. When I'm looking at a list of a lot of stuff I have to do, I can see that joy in there. And I tell clients this all the time. And I think I've said it in previous podcasts, is that we are so schedule oriented. So put in coffee with friends. Schedule it into your day as an appointment, or going for a walk, or whatever brings you joy. Schedule it into your calendar, because we're more apt to do it when it's in there. Yeah, if we don't schedule some of these things in, then they just kind of slip by. So I just wanted to add a few more tools and techniques. because I think that, some of these things that I've said, maybe they don't resonate with you. So I like to, when I give clients grounding activities, I have 2 full sheets of grounding activities because everybody's different and things work with some. And sometimes, categories might work and the next time it won't. So let's do something else. So same with this, right? We're just going to geek out for a second with some of these, the names of some of these, and I'll explain what they are. But they're just some tools and techniques that you might find helpful. And the first one is the Eisenhower matrix. What is the Eisenhower matrix, you might ask? It's an urgent versus important matrix. And it's a time management and decision-making tool that helps us prioritize tasks into urgent and important. So for the Eisenhower matrix, divide your tasks into urgent and important, important but not urgent, urgent but not important, and neither. This helps you see what truly needs your attention. So that's the Eisenhower matrix. See, so learned something new, but you didn't know that because I didn't know about it until I started researching some stuff. We also have time blocking. Set aside chunks of time for specific types of work or activities. Protect these blocks as best you can. And then we have another one that you might not have heard of. It is called the Pomodoro technique. It's a time management technique as well. And what we do is, it's almost like if you're into fitness, it's kind of like interval training, right? Where we work in focused 25-minute sprints. So we work focused, meaning we're not checking the phone, we're not checking messages, we're not switching tasks. We're just 25-minute focused sprints of work. And then we're going to take a 5-minute break. And you can stretch, you can have a drink of water, you can look away from your screen, whatever you might do in that 5 minutes. It can help you tackle projects into bite-sized pieces. You're going to do 4 sets of that, 4 25-minute and then 5-minute break. And then you're going to take a longer break, so like 15 to 30 minutes. It could actually go into a lunch break or something, but you're going to take a longer break. And then I want you to try some reflection journaling. I want you to take 5 minutes at the end of the day to reflect. What worked? What didn't? Where did your time go? This helps course correct gently, right, for going forward. So maybe when you find out, oh yeah, that worked when I took that break, or no, I needed to get those things done and then I had the afternoon to do what I wanted to do. Whatever it is, whatever works for you, do that reflection journal and then you can make changes as you see fit. Some more things to add to your toolbox. And like always, I have some questions that clients have asked, listeners. And the first one is, Christine, what if my values change? Because I always talk about aligning with your values. Well, that's okay. Your values should change. As we evolve and grow and mature, our values do change. So we're human. So check in regularly. Check in to see what you're aligning with now, what's changing, what's not. Your playbook can adapt as you change. The next question is, what if my job or life doesn't allow much choice? First thing I would say is reflect on why. Jobs might not allow much choice. Why doesn't your life allow much choice? What are you setting up in your life that doesn't allow you the choice? Because you are the gatekeeper of your life. At work, okay, what isn't allowing much choice? What I want you to do though also is just to start small. So even 5 minutes of purposeful time is a start. If that's 5 minutes that you just want to mindlessly scroll, whatever, if that's what you prioritize, right? Maybe it's 5 minutes just to sit in silence. Maybe it's 5 minutes to walk out to your car at work and come back. Maybe you have to get something and come back, obviously, depending how far away your car is. But 5 minutes, start small. All of those small shifts will add up to something bigger. And the last question I have is, How do I respond to people who don't respect my boundaries? Again, you are the gatekeeper of your boundaries. You are the one that is going to set your boundaries. You have to make sure that people stick to them. And you need to hold firm with kindness, because I'm all about kindness, and I'm all about how that boundaries are not a line in the sand, right? So you can hold firm, but just be kind about it, not letting people cross over, not letting them not respect them. So people eventually adjust. And I've said to clients, I probably daily, that, not probably, daily I say to clients, if you keep giving to people, if you keep doing for people, if you keep giving of yourself, they're going to say thank you. And if you allow people to cross your boundaries, they're going to cross them. We have to set the boundaries and we have to stick to them. And we have to set what we're going to do for people and what we aren't. And we often say, they just keep asking me to do these things. It's always something else. Okay, but you're always saying yes. So, I've also said, if you carry somebody else's negative energy, they're going to gladly hand it over to you. We have to be the keepers of our boundaries. And if somebody doesn't adjust to you setting your boundary, that's probably information about the relationship that you have with that person too. Before we wrap up, I wanted to end with a challenge. I like to end with challenges. This week, I want you to pick one thing you want to prioritize. Just one. One thing that you want to prioritize. Maybe you already are prioritizing and you want to continue, or maybe you haven't been prioritizing it and you want to start. Maybe it's reading before bed, calling a friend, taking a walk without your phone. One thing that I prioritize, because when I walk, I listen to music with my phone, but I prioritize if I hear the text message go off or email thing go off, my phone stays in my pocket while I'm going for a walk. That's how I prioritize that time. Put it on your calendar. Protect it. Notice how you feel after. Then next week, try adding a second thing. Just keep building. Prioritization is a practice. It's not a destination. We keep building. I often say that our lives are working documents, right? Where we don't erase. I never say erase. I always say cross out and write the next thing on it, the changes that you're making. You should never be the same person you were last week even, right? Always evolving and changing and being mindful and reflective. What's one small shift you can make this week to own your time? If you take anything away from today, let it be this. You are the steward of your own time. It is not selfish to own your minutes. It's actually essential. When you fiercely protect and prioritize your time, what matters to you, you're not just changing your days, you're changing your life. You're transforming what you want your life to be. You don't need to overhaul your life. You just need to start with that 1 hour of doing what you want, what matters to you. That 1 hour that feels like you. So thank you for hanging out with me today on the Mental Playbook with Christine Dalgity. If you found this episode helpful, share it with a friend. Leave us a comment, ask questions. Or tell us your stories, how you're doing things. I'd love to hear from people. And I'd love to hear about how you're rewriting your own playbook. So until next time, remember, protect your peace and your calendar, and take care of you.